Hello everybody, thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. I'm very glad you're here today, and I am not glad that I'm here today. I am currently sitting on the side of the road holding chunks of my wrecked Jaguar XFR and sitting beside the one who wrecked it. This morning, I was supposed to be putting my 2011 Jaguar XFR on the dyno to find out exactly what it's making after all of the modifications we put on, the upper pulley, the lower pulley, the tune, the ice box, catless downpipes, all that. We wanted to find out exactly what it's making, and instead, we're here sitting with it on the side of the road, crashed, hurting, and needing a little bit of love. It's not the end of the world. This is far from the end of the world. This could be so much worse, and I am so grateful and so fortunate this happened how it did. Of course, it would have been nice had it not happened at all, but that's just not the way life goes sometimes, and that's okay. I got very, very lucky. I was driving home from work. I took my car to work with me this time, and that's about a 4.5-hour drive. I made it 4 hours and 15 minutes back towards home before this happened. So I'm only about 15 minutes from home right now. My fiance was able to come pick me up last night, take me home, and she was able to drop me off this morning to come check out the damage and see exactly what it is I need to do to get this thing home. It could be way worse. I only smacked the coyote on this corner, and if we look at the front profile of the car, you can see how much of it we clipped him there, versus had he hit dead center where we would have destroyed crash bar, probably all of our coolers and radiators in the front, a lot more of our bumper, maybe our hood, our headlights, our grill, any and all of those things would have been a lot more at risk had he hit the middle, and this would probably be a different story with a totaled car. I'm going to need some bracketry, all of the guides and things that guide air to this radiator are all broken. The bumper is broken. This piece here is broken along the bottom. We have a fender liner laying over there. The auxiliary radiator is dead. That auxiliary radiator is just engine coolant. I still have the main radiator, at least to limp it home. All I'm going to do, because all the bracketry is broken anyways, and it's just hanging here loose. It's not connected to anything anymore. I'm just going to go and disconnect those two hoses. I have a couple of fittings here with me that I'll be able to just complete the loop and plug those hoses together. The way this happened, he jumped out extremely last minute, and I think this went about as good as it could have. He was lined up to hit me pretty much dead center. I was able to slow down and swerve a little bit and just deflect him off the side. Too bad, because we were very close to not hitting him at all. But I don't think that would have been realistic given the circumstances, given how dark it was, and given how quickly he jumped out of the ditch. So here we are with a dead car on the side of the road. Things could be much worse. This happened just up here, just kind of by this curve, and I'm assuming we'll find a coyote and remains a bumper somewhere over there. And I got very, very lucky and fortunate. Where I'm at here on the highway, we were able to find this nice roadside cutout with plenty of room to park the car safely last night and not be too worried about it being in danger, about somebody else being in danger of hitting it, because it was very dark out last night, and all of those associated things. Considering the car is kind of wrecked and in hurting shape, this whole situation went about as good as it can for what happened. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share another adventure and another story with you guys. This could be so much worse, and I have so much to be grateful for. I'm okay. The car is totally going to be fixable, and it shouldn't even be that expensive. We're into this car very cheap, and fortunate for that it will be justifiable to fix. And of all people, I am capable and will enjoy fixing it, and I'll enjoy sharing that with you guys. Without further ado, let's get into some stuff here. I brought some tools with me, distilled water with me to top up the cooling system. I brought the fittings I need to pull out that radiator, and we'll go for a little bit of a walk here. I'm gonna see if I can find the remnants of the coyote and the car. After that, we'll come back. We'll get this thing all redneck put back together so we can drive it back to the house and it doesn't have to sit on the side of the road any longer than it absolutely has to. Well, let's get going for a walk here. I'm gonna see if we can find any of the remnants. I'm trying to figure how far back, because they're at minimum, even if the coyote managed to leave, there should at least be remnants of my bumper somewhere here. And it's really hard to tell. So you can see how far we've come with the car up there. But I haven't seen anything yet, and it should be fairly obvious because there will be a couple of very large chunks of my black bumper somewhere in this vicinity. I think This is just a pile of dirt. Looks black. Yes. It is indeed just a pile of dirt. Boo. Oh. Finding goodies. It's not the goodies we're after. It's a hubcap from a 1 ton or 3/4 ton Ram. Ask me how I know. Oh, this is not a chunk of my bumper, but rather a black chunk of shovel. Not what we're after. It is a black chunk of plastic, but it's the wrong black chunk of plastic. Not sure how much farther I'm gonna have to go. I'm going to assume somewhere in here is going to be what I'm after. We're gonna find out though. I know I didn't quite finish the icebox video, and I don't know, I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna try and mix that content in with this. If I do mix that content in with this, you're gonna know what I'm talking about, and this is going to be irrelevant. If I don't, this is definitely going to be relevant, because I did end up installing an icebox on the XFR, specifically so that I could take it and put it on the dyno. Aha. There's a chunk of Jaguar. I think there is a chunk of Coyote. Here's another chunk of bumper. It's another chunk of Jaguar. A couple of brackets, those might be useful. Another chunk of Jaguar. Just picking up chunks of Jaguar everywhere. And there is what remains of our lovely friend, Mr. Coyote. Poor guy is dead, dead, dead. Oh boy, I think. Holy little guy only has, we killed a 3-legged coyote. This makes it more interesting. Unfortunate, but that's it's not exactly, wasn't exactly my intention. I don't think it was his intention either. Another chunk of bumper. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's keep making a pile. Oh, oh, oh. Whew. That is an old chunk of window. That's the bottom of a window. You can see all the glass. And although we hit them pretty hard, I don't think I'm missing any glass. So that's a win. That's got to count for something. I'm assuming we're kind of right to the end of it. And I believe here I'll have a little bit of memorabilia to bring back with me. All this traffic is quite annoying, but what can you do? We're on the side of the highway. I'll pick up my pile of stuff, put as much of it in my pocket as I can here. We'll head on back to the car and see what we can do to get it back together. Poor, poor Jaguar. And poor, poor Coyote. I guess we now have an answer to what wins in a fight. A Jaguar or a Coyote. I don't think the Coyote stood a chance. We're back at the car. We've collected all of our chunks of plastic and remnants of all the blown apart pieces of the car. We went and visited our lovely friend who's no longer with us, Mr. Coyote, back there in the ditch. I'm gonna try and get this thing redneck put back together so that we can limp it home. Shouldn't be too bad. We're just basically gonna pull that auxiliary radiator out, reconnect those lines to themselves and complete the loop, and we should be okay. I'll let you guys join me in a second here as we get that done. First update, got the TPMS receiver off of the car. The wires are broken on the end of it here, so we'll have to get a new pigtail for that. But we tucked the wires off to the side. That should be out of the way. The cooler here, we've got 2 hoses on the cooler there, right up in there. All we're gonna do is disconnect those 2 hoses, loop it together with this little guy right here, and we should be good to head back home here. I'm gonna hop around quick. I'm gonna quickly start up the car and turn the steering wheel to give us a little more room to work in there. Turned. Much better, much, much better. A lot more room to get in there and work on this. Next step done. We have got the auxiliary cooler out of the car. We've got our 2 hoses there. We've got a little bit of dripping, but nothing too crazy. It's unfortunate. I don't have a fender liner anymore. So hopefully nothing gets hurt on the drive home. We should be okay. We're not going very far. We're not going over gravel or anything. We should be able to limp it home slowly and okay. I'm going to get these 2 hoses plugged off together. I don't think there's gonna be room to directly loop them together, But lucky enough, from installing the ice box, I still have excess hose sitting in my trunk. So I'll actually be able to just cut a small piece and put it in to complete the loop that way instead. I'll join up with you guys in a second here once I've got those two hoses joined together with a couple of these guys, and then we can get going. It's not the prettiest thing, but should do. Took some of my heater hose from the ice box. I actually had the hose still in the car. Took a little bit, cut a chunk, ran myself a little loop to take that thing's place. Got all our junk together. Just gonna fire up the car. I don't know if I'm gonna have to add a bit of fluid or not. It doesn't actually look like it's lost that much fluid, but I'm sure it's lost a bit. I'm sure we could limp it home, but I might add fluid if we need to, just in case. Let's give this thing a fire, see how it cooperates, clean up our mess here in a minute, and hopefully we should be able to head home. We're a little bit low on coolant, but nothing insane. We're holding up so far. See what happens as it warms up here. I'll let this thing warm up and I do a little bit of my cleanup of all my mess, and I'll join you guys in a second. So we got it all together. The only real thing I'm too worried about is the bumper flapping around, or what's left of the bumper flapping around. Should be okay, fingers crossed. And I'm about to head home, so we'll see. Not too far, should make it, shouldn't really have any issues, but we're gonna give it a go and see what happens. So I will join you guys at home, hopefully issue free. If not, and if I'm joining you in the meantime, it's probably not gonna be a good thing. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so we made it home with the Jag, and fortunately it did pretty good. We did have a little bit of issue on the drive home, but it wasn't anything too crazy. Mostly just a little bit of air in the cooling system. I stopped a couple of times to top up the coolant, and we made it home pretty much scot-free, which I am quite happy and surprised about, considering how loose and all over the place all of this stuff is. But we did make it home, and thankfully we did have pretty much no issue. Doing a little more digging and looking, obviously looking at our parts, stuff that we're going to need the fender liner for sure, this bracket that holds the bumper for sure. There is an air guide that goes to the radiator itself. This little chrome ring is, some of the tabs are broken, but we might be able to reuse it. The grill itself is broken. The splash guard is broken kind of underneath. The headlight, a couple tabs are broken. And of course the bumper cover itself is broken as well. Most of those parts should be relatively easy to find, especially if we can find someone parting out one of these cars. We might be able to buy everything we need as one package. The only unfortunate part is finding the new bumper is going to be a royal pain, because there are so few XFRs running around, especially where I'm at. Shipping is really hard and really expensive, especially if it's from another country. There's not many of these running around in Canada. I might have better luck finding something in the States, but even if I do, trying to ship it is going to be pretty much a no bueno. There is new options for the bumper cover for around $2,000 Canadian-ish, plus minus a little bit. But I don't know if that will be the best route to go or not, especially because we'll have to get it painted. The nice thing is at least it's an OEM Jaguar one, so it would fit really well. I'm still holding out a bit of hope that we'll be able to find a bumper off of a parts car, along with all of the other parts. The unfortunate part about that is only an XFR bumper will work. They have the special air guides and slots at the bottom for cooling the brakes and cooling that radiator. And I don't really feel like trying to retrofit up a base model XF bumper. They look a lot worse. They're not as functional in those ways I just mentioned, and a couple other things, but they are easier to find. The other option to be considered that would be pretty slick but is quite expensive would be to do the front end update to the newer style facelift look. Would be completely doable. It's just quite expensive. Obviously, to do that and get correct fitment on everything, we not only would need the bumper and the bracketry for the bumper, which a lot of it we would need anyways, but also headlights, a hood, and both fenders, along with some of the other bracketry on the other side and underneath that's not broken on this one, and we wouldn't be we would be reusing if we didn't go that route, and trying to price that out a little bit. It's gonna be 2-3 times the price, but it would look pretty sweet. I will say that the older style that this one is definitely growing on me. Before seeing this car in person, I didn't like the older style as much, but seeing it in person and having it for a little bit now, I do quite like the way it looks. The main thing now is just going to be sourcing parts. I would like to say I am very grateful that you guys are here with me, because sometimes when it comes to cars, you just can't predict when things like this are going to happen. This specific incident probably went about as good as it could have. The coyote jumped out in a way where it was almost unavoidable. I swerved about as hard as I dared, and instead of hitting it dead center of the bumper, it meant I only caught it on the side, which if we look at the front profile, we barely caught it, and instead of catching it right here and completely totaling the car, we just did some minor damage on the side, and it was able to still be driven home. So I'm very grateful for something like that, and I'm very grateful that that's all the damage we did, especially considering we could have done this much worse. The car could have ended up upside down in the ditch had I swerved a little harder. It could have been a deer or a moose instead of a coyote. It could have been 4 hours from home instead of 15 minutes from home. There's so much to be grateful for. I'm very thankful to you guys for jumping in, watching, and being a part of this. It makes it much more bearable to know that there are people out there paying attention, watching, and hopefully rooting for me to get this thing back together and better than ever. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for joining me here today, and we'll catch you in the next one.